MikeGoesBoom exposed, looking under the side skirts.
Just go ahead and clip that. Wait, I'm clipping everything. Okay, so welcome to the channel, and we'll do this the usual way. As I generally do my interviews, they're very free form. We talk about basically what you want to talk about, and the goal is to ask you questions that sort of reveal who you are as a person, apart from your presence on YouTube that everybody can just go to your channel to find out. And maybe we'll do a little bit of reminiscing, since there's some interesting material that I think people haven't looked at that gives a little bit more of a clue as to who you are as a person. But we'll talk about that later.
Ooh, boy, drama alert.
I have a note here. In fact, the note is to ask about MikeKevin90. So
oh god,
I guess I could start off with that. Care to explain yourself?
Right, first of all, hello, my name is MikeGoesBoom, also known as MikeGoesBoom. My actual name is Mike Boom. Yes, it's actually my real name. I know, a bit weird. I'm nearly 25 years old. I'm from Portugal, born in Germany. That's why I have this weird accent. And MikeKevin90 is my RuneScape username. A game I've been playing for over a decade now. And you see me playing a lot on Discord.
Aha, you've been found out. So, I enjoyed your RuneScape video because it's proof that it's okay to hold on to those past loves that are far, far past being popular. And I actually saw your MikeKevin90 username in an old War Thunder Blueprints video. It might have been one of your first Blueprints videos. And I was just appreciating the amount of editing that went into that one. Because, well, now I understand a little bit more about how much time that takes.
Oh, you have no idea. Those only Blueprints episodes, especially since I didn't have any idea how to actually edit, and I just discovered things as I went along. There are some episodes that took me a good 40 hours to make. It was bad.
Yeah, it shows, and those are very watchable, high-quality videos. But like you said before, you put so much work into them, and you get a meh response from the community. So, you were born in... Okay, I got lost already. You said you were born in Germany, and you grew up in Portugal, right?
Indeed. I was born in Germany to a Portuguese mother and a Belgian father. They were both stationed at a military base. I believe it was a missile defense base back in the late 80s, just around when the Cold War ended. From there, I lived there for about 7 years and moved back to Portugal with my mother eventually. My father stayed in Germany. They kind of split when I was very young. I also have a brother who stayed there, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm actually the only German guy in my family. Which still makes me very confused, because my mother is very short, and I'm like 50% sure I was exchanged at the hospital.
You teeny little mom and big old Mike. I'm sure that she loves that. So, you've been living in Portugal. You've actually done a few videos where you show us around your neighborhood, and it's absolutely beautiful there, at least when you were taking the videos. And so, what is it like growing up in Portugal? You probably have enough worldliness in you to see some of the differences between where you grew up and some of the places your viewers are from, but what are some of the things that stood out to you? Maybe even a story from growing up in Portugal.
It's definitely very different. Back in Germany, I used to live in the outskirts of Cologne, which was kind of a suburban area, but even then, I lived in a skyscraper that was taller than any skyscraper we have here in the city. In fact, I live in a pretty small city in Portugal, and it's interesting. It's a perfect mix of being close to everything, being urban, but having lots of nature around. To give a little bit of context, I live in Aveiro. It's a smaller city, about 80,000 people, south of Porto, which has canals running through it. It's called the Venice of Portugal, essentially. And you can see from our vlogs that it is a very, very beautiful area, for sure. but it's also a very different place, a very different lifestyle. You always get these stereotypes of the hardworking German guy. In Portugal, let's just say it's a bit more relaxed. We don't really go by the clock. When you set something up for like 9 a.m., you can expect people to be there at 10 a.m. the earliest. It's all very relaxed, much more beautiful. Weather is much better. At the same time, I still kind of miss Germany. It's a bit weird.
There's definitely a difference in the culture there. I had a very talkative Spanish teacher who spent some time living in Spain, and he had similar stories to tell about things like people, when you say you're going to show up at 9, it really means 10, 10:30, depending upon where you stop by on the way. And if you see some construction workers, they're probably doing their best to do things the hard way because they get paid by the hour. He told a story about some workers putting in a culvert, and they tore up the road, and then they filled it in with cement, and then they tore it out again, and then they put in the culvert, and then they started repaving it. And he said, "Why?" And they said, "We're paid by the hour."
Oh yeah, that's definitely the mentality here as well. They tend to take the longest time possible. In fact, we've had buildings here that have been in construction for over a decade now. Just so you get an idea, things that should have been finished years ago, but construction's still going on. Gotta make that money.
Job security. And speaking of, well, let's not fast forward too fast. So you grew up in Portugal. It's a huge culture difference between your early childhood in Germany, and this also came with a split from mom and dad being now separated, and that's something that I can relate to, and that's not always a bad thing, but it's always different than being raised by two parents, and there's definitely some things missing. Let me put it this way. If you do plan on having kids, is there something that you would like to give to your kids that you didn't have when you were growing up?
That is a good question. I suppose just giving a father figure, really. My parents split up pretty early. I was like 6 months old at the time. I used to visit my father during the weekends really only, so I never really had him as a proper father figure. And when I moved over to Portugal, then I saw him even less. I think the last time I saw my father was like 9 years ago now? I don't even know anymore. What kind of substituted the father figure for me when I was already young was my brother. He's actually quite a bit older than me. When I was born, he already was 20 years old, so he kind of took over the father figure mantle for me. But since he stayed in Germany as well, I just kind of didn't have a father figure anymore from 7 years old onwards when I moved to Portugal. So I would definitely try to be there for my children, because it is very important to have, let's say, a functioning family. It's even shown in studies that let's say kids tend to develop a lot better when they have both parent figures rather than broken families, let's say. It's definitely a story that many people can probably relate to, listening to this right now.
That's a good point, and I can definitely relate. I also come from a family where mom and dad split up, and that was instead of killing each other. So that needed to happen, unfortunately. But I definitely recall replacing my father figure as basically any older male who was around me. And that often was by teachers, because there's a decent amount of male teachers that I had growing up. And I really respect the schooling that I got. But not a lot of people are familiar with what it's like to go through the Portuguese schooling system, and you have gone on to some further education. Any stories from school, and what was that experience like?
The early years were quite hard for me because I didn't speak the language. When I moved to Portugal, I didn't speak Portuguese. German is all I really had. My mother used to teach me a couple of words back in Germany. It was really just the basics. We never really fully intended to come back. So the early years were quite awkward. I was this very, very tall for my age blonde kid who was missing some teeth and didn't really know how to communicate with the kids. Of course, when you are young, it's much easier to learn a new language, and we just kind of got along just by sign language and playing along and everything like that. But even years later, the language barrier was still there. I mean, they've been here for 18 years now, and I still have a very, very accent when speaking in Portuguese. I have a very heavy German accent, to the point that new people I meet have real issues understanding me sometimes. real issues. And I suppose that kind of resulted in some, let's say, lonely periods during end of middle school, start of high school. I went through a period where I was just extremely anxious, to the point that I refused even to go to the barbershop for like 3 months because I was too anxious to talk to the barbers. It was definitely a hard period during high school years. I just didn't really fit in. Even now, I just don't really fit in. Even in university, I had some issues relating to the other people. Given different interests, I was more about editing videos. There was about the time when I got into college is when I started doing my YouTube channel. And I discovered my love for that. But I was never the kind of guy to really share interests for football, like many of the other guys around here. Never really was much into politics. Never really shared common interests with many of my peers, which results in a bit of separation, I would say.
Oh yes, I'm afraid you're afflicted with beautiful loner syndrome. It's sadly incurable and affects the host much more than it affects the outside world. But I can also relate to that. I didn't really come out of my shell until I literally had a shell over my body in the form of an upper body back brace. That's a story that, well, that's my story. That doesn't belong here. But I'm sure many people can relate to that as well. And you've definitely blossomed as far as a social creature. You even have been seen fraternizing with females of the human species. So there is hope in the future. And on that note, what is it like now as far as, well, let's put it this way. There is this appeal for what is strange and exotic and thus very interesting among the more curious of the female aspect. Do you feel that you get a different kind of attention than, let's say, the guys who fit in better now? Does that make sense?
I suppose so, yeah. You do definitely get a lot more attention, and I do realize that, given that I'm very Aryan looking. I'm tall, I'm 1m90, that's about 6'3". I'm blonde. I'm now starting to bald, which is of course a not much of benefit, but you do definitely give off a different perception, absolutely. That said, I think people often get the wrong idea that looks make everything a lot easier. To some degree, they do, but you still have to have the confidence, I suppose. Confidence is sexy. You have the confidence to back it all up. And it's definitely gotten a lot better in the recent years. The older you get, the more confident you get, the less you care about what other people think. Which helps out your own mental health and improves your image towards the outside as well. So that's something for all you guys that are currently in these awkward years where you aren't really confident, where you just hate your loneliness. It gets better. Trust me, it gets a lot better. I was there. It gets a lot better.
Yeah, I think it'd be safe to say that looks are sort of a starting point, and you can find other places to start. And unlike the Luftwaffe, you can afford to get shot down as many times as you want. You can always get back up there.
Indeed. Of course, it is always a bit awkward when you suddenly spout into your love of Seitenschützen. They don't like that.
Well, I guess I just suppose it relies on the target audience. So, with that, I guess the ladies just mostly want someone to talk to, and then someone to be fun and safe with. Or a little bit risky. Depends on the woman. But I guess that's enough on that topic. Unless you want to talk about, well, have you had a girlfriend?
Oh yes, I've had multiple girlfriends throughout the times. Nothing really too serious for the most part. I'm currently seeing a girl for a while. But yeah, let's just say I'm not really planning to marry anytime soon. I want to get my life in order first.
Well, that makes sense. And how old are you now? I don't know if I've asked that yet.
I'm currently 24. Gonna be 25 in April. I do look a little bit older because of my beard and my baldness, which can be a benefit, can be a bit of a negative as well.
Okay, that's about the time that I got serious about being an adult. So you're probably on the right track, and things have continued to be changing for you. You've become less active on YouTube than you were before, although I'd say that your channel is still interesting, and the power of your personality is definitely there. As you look into your future, do you have plans, hopes, and dreams? Probably. Could you maybe share some of that with us? What's your hopes for the future?
That is a bit of a tough one. The original plan I always had in my life was to become an engineer and move back to Germany. Visit my brother, work there, live there, make my life that way. Until I actually got into an engineering course and I figured out that, well, crap, I am really, really bad at maths. Calculus is just awful. Does that know about the time when I actually started doing the whole YouTube thing, and I discovered that I actually really, really enjoyed it. So my plans really changed. Instead of wanting to finish my course, wanting to become an engineer and move to Germany, I wanted to get into TV, into movies, anything that has to do with creating content. And I suppose it is still my plan to some degree, but with recent developments on YouTube, it's definitely gotten a lot tougher, let's just say. You probably heard that 2018 has pretty much been the year of the burnout for the YouTubers, and this definitely affected me to some degree. It started around 2017 for me. That's when I started really dropping off in the amount of content I produced, mainly because my mother, she is quite old now. She's 66 years old. She had me when she was 42 years old, sorry. So she had an operation which didn't leave her completely fine. She now has some issues with walking. It's gotten a lot better since she had the operation about 2 years ago, but she can't really move around, or she can't really work as she used to before, which means that I'm now the one who really has to help out a lot in the household. I have to help out a lot in the household, I have to help her out a lot, and I have to make money to support the household as well. The problem with suddenly having to make a lot of money from YouTube is that it really puts a strain on you. I used to do YouTube a lot as a hobby, just to be able to express myself, learn some new things, create some new things, experiment with editing styles, do different things that I really liked. And Warframe really helped with that because I really, really enjoyed the game. After years and years of doing that though, and now with the added pressure of having to support my mom in any way I can, it's definitely taken a toll on my enjoyment of the whole thing. Especially War Thunder, I'm going to be completely honest. I haven't actually played War Thunder in 2 months now. I think the last time I played was on a stream for about an hour. I've gotten kind of burned out of the game, and that's a big issue when your whole channel was built upon that one game. I tried spreading out, but it's not easy branching out. It's definitely something that is very scary. Every day I question myself, is this going to go well? Am I going the right path? Should I just quit and get a minimum wage job somewhere just so that I can support my mom and stay home forever? Sad. I don't know. I suppose what I really want for the future is just to be able to actually get over these anxiety issues, get over this angst of the channel eventually failing, of the game failing, of something else happening, and just be able to do what I want, be happy with it, develop my career that way, get back into university, which is what I'm planning to do this summer, get a course in multimedia, and hopefully get actually a proper job at a TV station or movie industry or stuff like that.
Yeah, that is consistent with what you've shared before. And man, I wish I could just give you a big ol' hug and say it's gonna be okay. But you know, honestly, life sucks and then you die most of the time. So you've already done incredible things. You've reached out to people. You've given your own life as an example of someone who struggles through things and keeps going. You're taking care of your mom, and things are gonna turn up for you. Life definitely goes in cycles, and I think it was Shakespeare who made one of his characters say, "Oh fortune, spin thy wheel," because he felt like he was at the bottom. And things are definitely going to change. I'm convinced that YouTube will either be replaced by something better, or more likely, they will figure out how to be easier to monetize, because that doesn't work out for them either. And things are going to turn up. So you'll be able to keep going. To stay alive, you're at the bottom or you're close to it. Things are going to turn up is what I'd say to you. But that's not really a question at all. So when it comes to, let's put it this way, you've been through a lot of things, and you've been a beacon of at least the War Thunder YouTube community for a while now. If you could give advice to new YouTubers or someone trying to start out in the amateur broadcasting community, what kind of tips would you give them?
Well, I suppose I could give the tips that kind of made me grow in the Warfront community. You mentioned earlier how you saw the early blueprints videos where a lot of effort went in. This is really the tip I can give most people. It is going to be very, very, very hard to get noticed when you start a channel. Incredibly hard. There's so many channels on YouTube right now doing very similar things that it's very hard for you to set yourself apart. That said, it is not impossible. I see many people just try to get into the game by doing just, I don't know, random daily crappy videos that no one will really watch. And when they don't get the growth that they want, they give up eventually. You shouldn't do that. Just don't give up. First of all, first and foremost, do the content that you're happy with. In my case, I always wanted to share my knowledge with people. I always wanted to help people out, getting better at the game. Back in the day, War Thunder was decently new. It wasn't too old. I started when there was only aircraft in the game yet. And I definitely found a lot of satisfaction by simply being able to discover things in the game and transmit this knowledge to my viewers in the form of easily understandable guides. And that's what really kickstarted off the channel, because people notice when you put a lot of effort into your work, into your videos. So it's, at least in my opinion, it's always much more preferable doing 1 or 2 videos that take a long time to make, but really show the quality and the effort you put into them, than simply doing low effort daily videos simply for the view counts. Might be better for the short term, but it's not going to be a great way to grow your channel in the long term, I would say. Other than that, try to optimize your stuff, really. I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to quality. I try to have the best audio quality, try to have the best video quality, and I'm always tinkering with my PC to get the most out of it. And let's just tease something here. I'm going to make a guide very soon on how to get the best video quality you can, and just a general guide on how to better your videos. Let's say better the quality, because let's face it, it is 2019 now. YouTube has become very competitive. You have to have quality. You can't just do daily Call of Duty commentaries anymore to grow your channel. You really have to put in the effort. But if you do put in the effort, I do truly believe that you are going to be rewarded for it. You're going to feel much happier with it. And hey, maybe one day you'll be here getting interviewed by Toshio.
So you're saying that I should switch from taking screenshots with my cell phone of the television and maybe use that unregistered Bandicam everybody's talking about?
Yes. That's actually ironic. My first ever video I put up on the channel was me recording my my PS3 on Battlefield 3 with a really shitty camera. My second ever video was a 4x3 RuneScape video because I didn't know how to make 16:9 resolutions. We've come a long way.
We've come a long way. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, with that advance in the saturation of the market and just the tools that are available to people, the expectations for quality have gone up as well. And I might add that audio quality is just as important as video quality, so do yourself a favor and download and learn to use Audacity. I love it as a recording and editing software, and then almost everybody uses OBS to record video just because of how versatile it is. And if you're learning these tools, all it takes is watching a few YouTube videos. They're up there to teach you how to do that, and you can be just like Mike. You can watch his video on how to be just like Mike.
It is definitely important. Audio quality, as you mentioned, is very important. That's actually one of the things that I recommend people to upgrade the most. If you're going to invest in your channel, get a proper mic first. The thing I have right now, I've had this thing for 3 years now, is a Blue Yeti. Excellent mic for the money. It is very, very expensive if you're just starting out, but you can notice it makes a huge difference. People much prefer listening to a good voice, good quality, than listening to this shitty Xbox mic.
Yeah, absolutely right. In fact, the thing that got me really into making videos was that a close friend of mine bought me a mic, and I was like, wow, I can talk now. And to be fair, and for all of you people who are looking to start out, just make something that you love with what you have, and you don't need someone else to like what you do if you like what you do. And that's really what's going to keep you going, because there's just no guarantee for the response someone else is going to give. You've got to live the life that you love, and then other people will actually notice that. And that goes beyond YouTube as well. So that's been a pretty brief and interesting synopsis of how you've come to be the man that you are today, and you've got a big life ahead of you. And like I mentioned, life has its ups and its downs, and you'll be on the way up sooner than you think. So, was there anything while we were talking that came up and you wanted to share it but didn't get a chance to?
Don't really have anything to share myself, but I would actually like to ask you a question. I have to admit I haven't really followed your channel too much, but I would be very interested to hear your story about how you started, how you got into War Thunder.
Oh my goodness, the tides have turned. Typical dun, dun, dun. Aggressive German invading me before I can invade his privacy. So, okay, I'll bring you into my cold Russian winter. Come right in. I actually answered this question in an interview done by Pumatato, who has the smallest YouTube channel that we've talked about so far. He's just getting started, and he's probably listening to this. So, basically, I'm starting to realize that life is short and then you die, and I personally plan to live forever because I've been born again, but that's neither here nor there. I had a baby daughter born, and I decided that I'd like to have an echo of my life that she could watch and just jump into who her dad used to be from when she was born until whenever I stopped making YouTube videos. And if I manage to not get my channel deleted, which seems to be a greater accomplishment these days, then she'll have something to go back and remember me by. And it has also become my primary social outlet. So if you're looking to have a social life but also never ever leave your keyboard, well then good news. I've got a program for you. YouTube is definitely a way to do that.
That is incredibly awesome, and also a very good point. Now that you mention it, actually. Most of the friends I have now, I met online. I'm Armenian, Fly, Squire, Dita. I've met them all through War Thunder and eventually got to meet them in real life, so yeah. YouTube is actually a pretty good place to make friends.
And one of the unique aspects of making YouTube videos, and one of the reasons it's so important to be yourself, is if you really do show who you truly are, you will find people who are close to your heart but far from your location. And that's one of the neat things about YouTube.
Absolutely.
Well, Mike, it's been great talking with you, and I will continue to seek people out of nowhere and ask them for an interview. It's been just incredible, the amount of people that have responded to my tiny channel, and I like to think that's because I've created a comfortable environment, but it's probably more along the lines of no one has asked. So, hey, I guess I could ask you now, has anyone else asked you for an interview before?
No, never really. Well, technically Bovington, but that was a different thing. So yeah, thank you very much for having me on the channel, lad. It was great fun. It was nice being able to put my words out there in something other than a vlog I'm way too lazy to actually go out and record for. So thank you for everything, lad.
Alright, and as usual, guys, I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.